Welcome to Two Travel Dads Podcast. Here we share our favorite destinations, travel tips, ideas for saving money, and stories from our adventures. Be sure to check out our show notes at twotraveldads.com/podcast-episodes. Hey, welcome to Two Travel Dads Podcast. I'm Rob, and Chris isn't with me, but I've got our handy-dandy other podcast host, Kelly. You've heard her before. Oh, there she is. And we've got Lydia from Carson City. She works with Visit Carson City, and she is also a proud resident of the area. And we are going to be chatting all about Carson City. It's in that whole Reno Tahoe area. It's the capital of Nevada. It's gorgeous. If you haven't been, this is going to be your inspiration to go, because it is really genuinely a jaw-dropping place. So welcome, Lydia.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you guys. I'm also glad you had such a great trip here.
Oh my gosh.
We did. It was so fun.
It was the first trip that I've had, well, first of all, in a long time because of coronavirus. But the first trip that I've had where I came home and genuinely felt refreshed, which was amazing. I'm blaming the mountain air for making me feel so good.
Beautiful weather will be there.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. We only had that one day where it wasn't perfect, and even then, it was just I don't know. Maybe it was being in the mountains and having just these beautiful clouds roll over to wake us up. Like, I woke up to one of the most beautiful sunsets on that stormy day. It was great.
Yeah, and the dusting of snow was really pretty.
That was a bonus, especially coming from Florida. So, but jumping right in, being somebody who lives there in, Carson City, Eagle Valley, that area, what is your favorite thing about living in such a cool part of Nevada? I know it isn't the type of Nevada, the landscape of Nevada that so many people think of. And I think for me, that would be something special, but what makes it so special to you?
Well, you guys, this is a funny story because I grew up in the flattest of flattest places in Southern Illinois with a lot of cornfields. So every day for me is still kind of in awe that I still get to live in a place like this. But it's even funnier because my husband did a job interview here, and he's like, I got a job interview in Nevada. And I was like, Nevada? I'm like, really? Come on, man. At the time we were living in South Dakota. So it wasn't until he's like, look up the Carson City area. And I was like, oh, okay. I get it now. There's so many things I love about living here, and I get to really enjoy the whole area because I live a little bit south of Carson City in Carson Valley. And then I get to work in Carson City. So I feel like I'm really spoiled. But as far as the Carson City area, it's truly just incredible the access that you have to the mountains and the access you have to nature, even just from downtown. At a 5-minute drive, you're to the waterfall you guys went to, and you can walk out your back door or take your mountain bike and go head up the hills and take some pretty awesome rides. And then on top of it, you're only 30 minutes from Tahoe. So
yeah,
really
so beautiful
that you don't get to enjoy here. And then in town, we're a small town, so we're about 55,000 people in Carson City. So you really get that homey feel. And I feel like our people are one of the most special things about this town because they're so welcoming, and a lot of them are transplants too. So they love to share what they love about the area too. So, it's really just a hub for all things outdoors and history and culture. So I have no complaints.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so thinking about that, you mentioned biking, which that didn't even really occur to me about mountain biking, because that's not something that I do because I'm terrified of, flipping on a trail or something. But so on your day off, where's the best spot that you like to go for either mountain biking or your go-to spot for hiking? Or where do you go when you're like, I need to see some wildlife to just like recenter myself today? What's your go-to? What's your jam?
Oh my gosh. Well, I wish I could say that I'm an avid mountain biker, but that's one thing. Like I said, I grew up in the flatlands, man. So the mountain bikes terrify me, but I am a trail runner and I love to hike. And so from Carson City, that waterfall trail just makes my heart happy every time that I go there.
Yeah.
To the Kings Canyon.
That was
waterfall.
nice. It's
So I
really
love
pretty.
just kind of going there and resetting. And even like on my lunch break, sometimes I'll just head down that way or drive out there because it's so beautiful. Yeah, so the Ash to Kings Trail is probably one of the most popular mountain biking trails in the area and hiking too. So it's a beautiful, beautiful trail that is even part of, we have a couple of mountain biking events that happen here in Carson City every year. And that one is definitely a popular one and really beloved, especially by people in Tahoe when they come down when the snow is crazy. They still get to mountain bike in Carson City year round, even throughout the winter. So I would say, anything in the Sierra Nevada area is beautiful, but I also love Prison Hill. It's such a cool area that's on the eastern side of Carson City, and you get just kind of jaw-dropping views of the area and of the whole Sierra Nevada range from that way. And you can even see kind of all of Eagle Valley. So I love to head over to Prison Hill too. Um, and then I would say for the fall foliage, my favorite area is the Carson River Park area, where you get to go along the river and see the trees, and it's just neon yellow
Oh, it's so
throughout
beautiful.
September and October. So
Yeah,
that's probably one of my favorites.
We took time and we went over and did Riverview Park and walked the full loop. Oh my gosh. It was, especially being from the Pacific Northwest where you have so many evergreens. It's not, I mean, you don't, like, you get some fall foliage, but nothing like what you guys have in Carson City. That was gorgeous. We played.
Yeah, and the aspens were so beautiful.
Yeah,
I
we
love the
had
quaking
fun
aspen.
playing. We played influencer, and we were totally going for it. We were having our own little fall colors photo shoot. Loved it. It was fun.
Yeah, oh, it's really fun. I can imagine that it's a lot like I live in the Columbia River Gorge, and in the spring through late autumn, it's kind of the competition of who has the most toys on their vehicle. It sounds like you guys might have that too with, places to go in the water and Tahoe with boats and kayaks and places to hike and places to bike and, all the different toys attached to people's vehicles. It's pretty funny around here.
Absolutely. It is quite a playground out here. I mean, even just an hour from Carson City is Fallon, and they have a sand mountain, which a lot of people don't know about. So there's, and then all in the Pine Nut Mountains, which is the mountains on the eastern side of Carson City, there's trails that go for hundreds and hundreds of miles, and it is a playground for any ATV. And so we get a lot of people that come out and drive pretty far to go into the Pine Nut Mountains all around Carson City and just play. And it was fun. We got our Christmas tree out there this weekend, and we ran into so many dirt bikers and UTVs and just people looking to, play outside.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great. I loved the rail bike. That was really fun. And it felt like exercise, but it was also kind of like being on a roller coaster. So I really loved that. And it was scenic, and I loved that. That was, I think, my favorite part.
Yeah, I would agree.
It was beautiful doing that ride, and they took off running with that. They had just launched this year in the middle of everything. And so when the train from Virginia or from Carson City to Virginia City couldn't run, which is normally goes out of that same depot, they've been talking about the rail bikes for a couple of years now, and they're like, now is the best time that you could ever do it. So it's the B&T Railway, put that on, and going down into that Carson Canyon is such a beautiful ride, and then to see wild horses along the way. I think it's really an attraction that's been drawing people from all over. So we're so proud to have that.
Really unique. I really enjoyed that. It was all ages, because if maybe grandpa's with you and he doesn't want to pedal, he can just cruise in the back. I got to do that once, and then
you did
have to pedal in the front.
The motors really help on that way back up out of the canyon. It's really it's for everybody, and it's something that we're really excited to have here.
Yeah, it truly, like, I do a ton of travel. It's my job. And that was the first time that I have gotten to do anything like rail biking. I loved it. And I think it's an excellent example that I can see other destinations who have either a similar past with mining or have that mountainous terrain. I can see them setting up something similar in the future, because rail biking out of Carson City was one of the coolest things I've done. I loved it. It was so cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
One of the other things that I thought was incredible about Carson City was its proximity to Lake Tahoe. For somebody who just loves to hike and also loves beautiful views, I thought that the proximity to Tahoe, number one, it surprised me because I really did think they were farther apart. But gosh, it was just amazing to have just, I think we got there in what, 25 minutes maybe, with zero traffic just coming out of the city
Yeah.
and just opening up to
Beautiful
just
drive.
the view, the gorgeous view, the second you come down around that one corner. And I mean, we also had a really cheesy experience where a bald eagle literally swooped down
Oh
as
my
we came around that
gosh.
corner.
You're
Yeah.
meant to
Yeah.
be
None
there.
of us had our cameras out, darn it, but we saw it.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. But I think that's the other really wonderful thing that surprised me about getting to visit Carson City was proximity to Tahoe and all of the access points there on the Eastern Shore. Really amazing.
Oh
To
yeah, and
hike. Yeah.
we say that all the time. We're like, if you come to Carson City and you don't go to Lake Tahoe, we feel like you've probably done yourself a disservice because how could you not when you're that close? And part of Carson City, we have a little bit part of that lake on the eastern shore that you guys got to see, and that Skunk Harbor area. That once you get down there and you go over to Chimney Beach, that's really kind of the sliver of Tahoe that we get to claim, luckily.
Mhm.
I think you have to go to Tahoe if you're here when you're that close. I mean, that's truly one of the most beautiful places in the world. That's our backyard. And
It
so
is
whether you make
really.
Tahoe your destination or us your destination, I think seeing this whole region is really kind of what you have to do when you're here in northern Nevada.
We also love the hot springs. You have to put a plug in for that,
Oh,
especially because they had those rooms where if you just wanted to go just with your family and have 2 hours of just soaking in the beautiful mineral water, that was really enjoyable too.
I really did. And you know what? It was funny because I got home and I've started researching like where are the closest hot springs to us. We're gonna have to drive like 8 hours.
Oh no.
You have beautiful blue springs full of manatees and alligators. So.
I know, but going from like that beautiful mountain air and getting to like hang out and just soak in hot springs in the fresh air
That was
to
nice.
coming home and having 71-degree water to jump into, it's not the same. And that's something I really appreciate about Carson City is it was just right there on the edge of town. Perfect. Loved it. So moving to kind of, the current state of things, with travel being so minimal in 2020, how has your area really been effective? Have you seen that a lot of people just aren't on the go? Does it feel just like any other year? Tell me a little bit about how Carson City is making it through. I know here in Florida it's its own story, but what's up with Carson and how it's being impacted by 2020 as a whole?
We're really in an interesting predicament being so close to Lake Tahoe. So it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be, but it definitely, I wouldn't say it's great. So, of course, we've lost a lot of visitors because we get a ton of people that, come from, internationally and who love to see more of that rural Western town. And, we're not getting a lot of that fly-in traffic anymore, but we are getting some road trips. So of course, our visitorship is down, and we're right next to Tahoe, so we're getting some of that residual traffic that's coming down and a lot of local traffic. So we're getting people who are kind of discovering their own area, and I think Carson City is a hidden gem for sure for a lot of people because they're really usually going to Reno and Tahoe. And we're starting to see more of the locals kind of living in those areas and coming down, but we've definitely opened and closed our museums quite a few times. Um, and hopefully they're reopening this week is what it's sounding like. So we're all just taking it kind of month by month and week by week and seeing what's happening with, the changes with, the governor's mandates and things like that. But I just have to commend our community and just wanting to take care of each other. I think
Yeah.
everyone's just been really respectful in the fact of, wearing your mask wherever you go. And I think there's some stewardships happening on the trail systems too, where people are really protecting that outdoor element and really wanting to make sure that they can still go out and be in nature and go hike safely. So I think we're all just doing our part to make sure things are happening and staying safe. And
That's awesome.
Tahoe's actually been the total opposite, where they've had a lot of over tourism and more people than they could even handle throughout this entire time we've been in lockdown. So it's two polar opposites right next to each other. So I think we're probably like the majority of towns like us and cities and that are kind of being, just kind of overrun at certain areas. We're not really feeling that, but we're really feeling a lot more of the local love for sure.
Good. So I know when I lived in San Francisco many years ago, we took a trip actually to Carson City for a wedding. And you mentioned that you are seeing a lot more road trip traffic. Do you feel like, is that coming a lot from the Bay Area? Like, who do you guys try to bring in? Like, who are you trying to attract? I know, Kelly, you were talking about, gosh, this is so close to where we live. We can do this as like a day road trip.
We could do it in 9 hours, which after doing a 50-hour drive is nothing. So we'll be down.
Yeah. On average, I would say we're seeing mostly from a 4 to 5 hour trip radius. And that's kind of just based off of studies from around the area. Because obviously not everyone's stopping in our visitor center. So I wish we could talk to more people than we do. On a normal year, our biggest markets are, Sacramento, Bay Area. And then surprisingly, we get a lot from LA as well. And then of course from all around Nevada. So we're definitely seeing more people from in-state. And that's really, as far as from a marketing perspective, who we're targeting right now, just because we feel like that's, us doing our part to, keep numbers down, but still stay alive.
Yeah.
It's been a weird balance. It's been very hard to promote tourism during this time because you want to keep your businesses alive in your town and, still have people promoting the local economy, but you also don't want to say, hey, everybody come here, because it's also, wanting to protect our local community too. So it's been a weird balance, but overall, we're just, hoping that everybody comes out of this.
I think, speaking of, coming out of this, not necessarily on top, but just like alive and making it through. It's interesting seeing the small businesses and how they've been impacted. It was wonderful as we were wandering through the streets of Carson City. We were talking to lots of different people that whenever we'd stop for food or snacks or whatever. And it was interesting to hear how their businesses have changed and such. Where was it? It was at the Bank Saloon that we went to, Kelly. Remember?
Yeah, brand new.
Brand new. We were kind of
brand
floored.
new, just opened. Like, wow, that takes real boldness to open during a pandemic, but it was really well done and everyone was spaced, the seats were apart and it felt new and clean and everyone was happy to be there. You could just kind of feel the energy of everyone's just like, we're out and around each other, but it feels safe. And remember the guys started breaking into song next to us and it was very fun.
Yeah. So, but thinking about things like that new business and such, what's something that people who are coming through the area that they could do to be sure they're supporting those local businesses versus, sending their money out of town? I know I didn't see a ton of chain options for either dining or in whatnot, like in the immediate downtown area. So I don't know if that's something that maybe I just missed, but how can people like me make sure that we're supporting local and keeping the money there in the community?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because that is such an important part of this. A lot of our downtown businesses, so we have, Carson City is pretty big as far as the land mass. So actually south of town is where we have a lot of the more commercial areas. So we're kind of lucky that it's split up to where our downtown is really local businesses. And then south of town is where you can, go shop if you need to go to more of your commercial spots. But truly any of our businesses downtown are owned by our local residents and families. And so when you come down and you eat in Carson City and you shop in our small retail stores down here, you're really supporting the people that, make Carson City run. So, we've been doing everything we can to keep our restaurants open, especially as they dial back, because we're at limited capacity inside. I'm not sure what it's like in Florida, but right now we're at 25%.
You really don't want to know. You don't want to see it.
Yeah, right now we're at 25% capacity. So you can imagine, to have your indoor seating cut, down to a quarter what it was. We've been just trying to support takeout as much as you can and buy online at your local shops if you can, or set up an appointment to shop. So there's been a lot of unique ways that their retail stores are have adapted and selling some of their stuff on Facebook and on social media. But we've been lucky enough that we've still been able to go inside places, and we're not a crazy, widely busy town. And so it's felt very safe to be able to go out into the community and shop and go into those small stores and make sure that we try to keep them open as much as we can. But the restaurants have definitely been something that we've been really pushing to go support because they need it.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking about, so, tourism, it trickles to every aspect of the community. And thinking about supporting local, when you're picking, say, a restaurant to have a nice dinner, do you have a favorite that sources their food locally, that either works directly with a local ranch or local farm to bring everything and be as farm to table as possible? I feel like that's one thing that I wasn't really able to um, define as I looked at menus and such as we were traveling around the area. Do you have a favorite that's a really like solid farm to table choice to support in Carson City?
That is a great question.
And it's okay. It's okay if you can't answer it.
Okay.
It just came up in my mind.
We had an amazing restaurant, and we still do, called Gather, but they've kind of been closed throughout this and kind of revamping their menu. It's not so much so prominent, like this is a farm to fork table, but a lot of our restaurants are sourcing as local as they can. And it was a lot more because we used to have a local vendor that stopped being able to do their local beef. But I don't have a solid answer for you on that one. It's just kind of small incremental pieces where they source their beef from a local farm, or they get local lamb from Eagle Valley Farm. That's right by Carson River Park. So right now we don't have that flagship farm to fork table, but kind of restaurant. But I would say the Union and Cucina Lupo source all over the Reno and Carson City and Carson Valley areas to make sure that they're sourcing their ingredients. It's just not so much as waving that farm to fork kind of flag.
Yeah.
But they're still supporting locally as much as they can, because why not? We're in a great agricultural area.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's really awesome to hear that there are those places, like you're saying, like Lupo and like Union, that are doing that. So assuming that things start to improve, with COVID cases and how numbers are playing out across Nevada, across the whole Southwest, what would you say is the best time for people to come to Carson City in 2021? I feel like the window for 2020 is closing rather rapidly. So, thinking about like weather and the events that you guys would typically do in the city, when would you say people should start kind of chalking down their calendars and planning that out?
If it was a perfect world and we had a full calendar year and it was safe to travel, throughout the year, truly unbiasedly, I feel like it's always a great time to come here. But I think things start really picking up with events, which really is what makes Carson City special, because we have so many events that are community based, but also fun for a tourist to come to as well. But I would say in May, things start picking up. And then by June, our events are in full force. And then all the way through really November, there's a lot going on, and still things that you can do, like the rail bikes you guys did, and, the V&T train that runs, and our mountain biking events that I talked about. So I would say between May and November is a really great time to come and really be able to participate in events and still have great weather, because even in November, most of the time it's still 60 to 70 degrees here. And it doesn't really, what I feel, doesn't really get cold until, January, February. But I would say from May on, you're pretty set.
Okay. That's interesting. Because in my mind, I thought you were going to say, maybe starting in like March, it kind of starts to warm up, but it's mostly snow. So that's interesting that it, really in the 60s and 70s, like still in November. That surprises me.
Yeah, it's really where the desert meets the mountains. So coming from the Midwest, it gets brutally cold, but even throughout the winter, it's still, in the 40s most of the time. We definitely have some cold snaps for sure, where it gets in the negatives, and it's really cold in the mornings where it's in the teens, but by 11 o'clock, it's pretty warm here.
So you guys don't really get like a hard freeze necessarily that sticks around, because I was picturing literally like Carson City kind of being snowed in until like March, but it sounds like it's not the case. Which
someone said something really funny the other day that I never thought about, but they're like, but when the snow is come to Carson City. So I'm just gonna say you can edit it out if you want.
Yeah,
But I think it's hilarious because it's true. Everyone from Tahoe comes down here, year round. We don't get that snow. It definitely snows. Sometimes it'll stick around for a couple days. You guys really were kind of in the coldest time that we had in a few months when you came here. But usually it snows and it's gone the next day for the most part. So we're pretty lucky in that sense that we still get to experience that kind of winter wonderland. But it's sunny usually the next day and it's gone. So our roads aren't bad. And as a Midwesterner, I think it's pretty magical.
That's actually,
I think the winters are pretty amazing for the most part. So you could come here year round if you wanted to. But as far as like things and being really active and things going on in the community, I would say, January through April, it gets a little bit slower. And then May is when more of the attractions start ramping up their events and there's more going on.
That's awesome because I've written 2 articles about Carson City because I think it's so cool. In all of like my research and reading and experience, it hasn't really struck me as a year-round destination, but clearly, I mean, if it's not being fully socked in snow for long periods of time, that completely makes it year-round visitable. Is that a word, visitable?
Visitable.
I think
No,
so.
it is.
Yeah, and we've got the museums that you can go to year round. So that's where a lot of people come in. And in the winter, I would say we're definitely kind of a couple nights stop for the area if you want to go see the museums and hit more of that history and find more things that are indoors. I think that's the nice balance in the winter with us because we have more things to do indoors. And then, you have all the trails that, aren't really snowed in.
Yeah. Quick question, and then I've got some more specific things. But when it comes to summertime, I know I've been in Las Vegas in summer, and I felt like I was actually going to die because it was so hot. It was like being in a convection oven.
Yeah,
what does summer feel like there in Carson City? I can't imagine that it compares with that sort of intense heat.
No, I would say we probably range in the 80s to 90s. So
nice. Just right.
It's usually in the 40s at night. So it's cool in the evenings, which makes it so beautiful in the morning. And then, we definitely heat up during the day. And then we have that sunshine all the time, which is amazing. But no, I think we get those desert nights and winter nights, and it's beautiful. So the mornings are usually super nice. And, we run year round in the morning. So
Love it.
it's pretty bearable. And then if it gets really, really hot, then we head up to Tahoe. And then we kind of flip flop. So in the summer, like some people go up to Tahoe because it gets a little bit hotter down here. And then in the winter, they're coming down here because it's not snowed in and it's nice weather.
Yeah. Something that I was doing in my research, I know that the California Zephyr line with Amtrak, that it goes to Reno. Do you guys ever partner up with Amtrak, or how do you consider your train travelers? Because that's something that we've seen. We first partnered up with Amtrak a couple of years ago. It was like, I think 3 years ago. And we've seen train travel get more and more popular again, almost not like it was like in the 50s, but that's really grown. Is that something that you guys have kind of either focused on or considered as like that kind of train travel market?
I would say if you are going to take the train over to Reno and you want to come down, I feel like you kind of have to have a car. It's doable without a car, but we don't have the greatest public transportation that goes around the whole region. So if you're looking to just get here, but then you want to go and explore and find a cheap rental car for the weekend, that's how I would recommend getting around because you're just going to see a lot more. And you can even see just driving around Carson City, you really kind of need a vehicle if you really want to get to all the places that you want to go.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of ground to cover and a lot of things to see in such a short amount of time and such a short radius. So I would say that's what I would recommend. But yeah, I would say absolutely.
I have a couple other quick questions before we're done. So when it comes to booking travel to Carson City, I know how to find flights from Florida and all that stuff, but I wanted to know, do you have a suggestion for either what is like the best hotel deal that you know of in town, or is there any sort of either hotel or any of the casinos or travel brands that put together like a really great travel package or flight packages? Do you know of anything like that you could recommend that people keep their eyes out for?
We, as a DMO, as Visit Carson City, we've been working really diligently with our hotels to really create more packages in the community. and really get more of our attractions on board to be able to do that. But as far as hotel deals, if you're a family that's looking for that breakfast and activities and like a really kind of a smaller family, the Gold Dust West, as far as casino goes, is a really great option because they give that free breakfast. There's a bowling alley attached to it. The rooms are nice and clean. And then if you want to go down and, pull the slot machine for a little bit, you have that option too. Because I think that's what a lot of people think of in Nevada as well. And, that's probably one of them that has more of the packages. But as far as other hotel deals, they're offering all of our hotel deals that, they're really offering a lot of different packages right now. Not so much packages, but discounts and really trying to get people to Carson City. So it's changing all the time.
Okay.
So I always recommend just, if you want to see all the hotels that are in our area, you can go on our website and see them, but their individual websites are going to have the best deals. We don't have that kind of connection to help with that. Sadly.
Yeah. I think right now, not that we want to encourage people to be traveling during certain restrictions or if they're not comfortable with it or are health compromised or anything. But right now, if you are looking to travel, there are some really fascinating deals available to lots of different destinations, but specifically, in the California, Nevada area, you can find some very great prices and combos because everybody has been so restricted in 2020. So I've seen a lot of sales and marketing teams getting really creative about what can we offer people to come and, explore, separate of everybody else right now. So it really is interesting to kind of dig into individual sites and see how they're catering to the guests that they want to bring in.
Right. And, if you're going to fly in, you can come to Carson City, Reno's our closest, and then we're a couple hours from Sacramento too. But Reno is one of their biggest airlines is Southwest. So that's probably where you're going to find the most flights from. And that's, I know they're working really hard to make sure that they keep as many flights as possible going out of Reno. Just because we're a small airport too. So I would say, check directly on Southwest too, and the other airlines that fly out of here, as far as United and American and Frontier just started out of here too. So I know there's been some great deals that have come out of there between us and Denver.
It's really appealing to be traveling in and out of small airports. Actually, that's like maybe a hook right there. Not many people.
I love that airport.
It's so really nice. Small ones make a big difference. It's a lot more enjoyable than the huge O'Hares and that kind of thing, especially knowing, we're all a little bit freaked out about amount of people we're around right now.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Well, thanks so much for being on here with us today, Lydia, and Kelly too. Thank you for hosting with me.
Yes.
Gosh, it was wonderful getting to spend time in Carson City, and gosh, I really am looking forward to coming back. And so, yeah,
me too.
Glad. We can't wait to have you back.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, Kelly, you guys can do a little road trip down, and
I
then
think we should. Yeah,
and then
it's beautiful down there.
And we can do a little. It took me forever to get there this last time because I booked my flights in a weird way, so I ended up having a bunch of stopovers. I found a way to get there much more directly. Woohoo!
Good.
So
good.
Maybe we can meet there again. Anyways, thank you both for being here, and everybody, please make sure that you check out twotraveldads.com, where you will find our complete show notes. You'll find our 4-day itinerary for exploring the Reno Tahoe area. Of course, staying in Carson City because it's the central spot. Everything about outdoor activities, restaurants, you name it. So have an awesome day. Lydia, take care of Carson City for us, and we will see you again soon.
Oh, thank you.
And Kelly,
take care, Lydia.
Take care. Everybody stay healthy. Two Travel Dads podcast is written by Rob and Chris Taylor and produced by Rob Taylor in Suquamish, Washington. If you would like to be on Two Travel Dads podcast or sponsor it, please visit us at twotraveldads.com/work.